This is Amy Hood from Hoodzpah Design, and you're listening to the Master of One podcast. You can find me at Amy Hoodlum on Instagram.
Welcome to another episode of the Master of One podcast, the podcast that can never look at carnivals the same way again. Part 1 this week, we talk about It, Circles Conference, and the future of toy stores with special guest host Doc Reed. I'm Andrew, your Master of Art and Design.
I'm Doc, the Master of Red Beards and Tomfoolery.
I'm Patrick, your Master of Television and Film.
And I'm Luke, your Master of Toys and Games.
So come on down to another episode, because we all float down here.
Where? Where are we floating?
We like to kick every episode off by going around the table, which is where we talk about something new, fun, and noteworthy about our weeks. And this morning, I woke up.
And then what happened? Go on.
I went on a walk time, and then I had breakfast.
You went on a walk time, and then you had a little breakfast.
I went on my walk time. I just had the moment of who's on Doc's screen. That's Andrew.
Okay. We like to kick every episode off by going around the table, which is where we talk about something new, fun, and noteworthy about our weeks. But like we said in this episode, we have a special guest host. So, Doc, why don't you say hi to everybody?
Hello.
Okay.
Hi.
Well,
He's got a chimney to sweep after this.
When he gets nervous, he shifts into English accents. It's just a trigger. It's a mechanism.
Yeah, it's a total default.
So Doc is actually sitting next to me in the studio because we hung out this week, and he was supposed to be home, but his flights got canceled on account of Irma.
Thanks, Irma. Appreciate it.
So he's joining us this episode, and it's going to be a blasty blast. So actually, Patrick, why don't you kick us off on the Around the Table?
Yeah, so let me start by saying I messed up. I want to say we, but really me. I've been talking about September 14th. How important that date is.
What is that, everybody? We all know. It's when we go live on video, right?
That's when our first video episode on YouTube. We're pushing things to our channel right now. We have some unboxings we've told you about. But like our first full episode in video is coming September 14th. But it's not.
Just kidding.
Because I messed up some dates internally. So let's make a slight modification. September 18th. That's right. That's the day to put on your calendar. There's no way we're going to miss this one, guys. So I just want to correct that.
Unless there were some kind of storm that would prevent the mail carriers from getting equipment
shipping
places.
out of New York. That'd be random.
But what's the odds of that happening?
Let me say this. Well, let me say this too, because obviously, everybody got to experience Irma this past week, or at least everybody in the South. And we have a lot of friends of the show that are in the Orlando area, and thankfully, everyone is safe. I think there was a sketchy night. I mean, I've heard a couple stories from people like Designomat and Jay Ratner and some people like that are in the community, but thankfully everyone is good to go. And it's actually, I'm sitting here recording right now. I'm in Tennessee, and so I'm getting to deal with Tropical Storm Irma, so I can hear all the wind and rain outside my window, but certainly nothing like what our Florida friends had to deal with. So glad everybody's safe. And so that being said, let me jump into the category. So very cool thing I got, I watched this week. I watched the entire season 1 of The Good Place. And this is in anticipation of the new season, which begins September 20th, I believe. So we're not very far away from season 2. But basically, this is a show, the primary characters that you would know, or the primary actors would be Ted Danson and Kristen Bell. But the idea of the show is that these people have died, and they've gone to the afterlife, and they've gone to the good place, right? So the good place meaning that there's also a bad place. And but one of them, and come to find out, 2 of them that are in there aren't supposed to be. They somehow made it there by mistake. Who knows what happened? And they're trying to basically, it's Kristen Bell trying to earn her spot in the good place before she gets found out and sent back to the bad place. And very fun show. Hilarious. I mean, I've been, there's this tough thing of as you get older, trying to understand like, are things not as funny as they used to be? Or maybe your just idea of comedy shifts, or the way you perceive things, or maybe I'll just never get a hearty laugh out of this chest ever again. I don't know. That being said,
I laugh at every time I see it.
That's true. Good Place is hilarious. Awesome show. The chemistry is great. The plot is a lot of fun, and definitely had fun twists and turns along the way. So because it's available to watch, and because I'm guessing there's a lot of people that probably haven't seen it, go ahead and watch it. I won't spoil the way the season goes, but watch it now. It's a quick watch. I think it's 13 episodes, and it gets you ready for September 20th, which is season 2. And we got our first teaser clip this past week for season 2. I mean, it's only about a minute and a half of footage, but certainly I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched most of it. For me, it was really funny up until the middle, and it kind of jumped into a crazy place. Like, it started getting really ridiculous.
I don't know that I would say it got any more ridiculous than maybe the show open.
Sure, the show open was pretty crazy, but and then it kind of settled into a groove, I felt like, for a couple episodes, and then it just got nuts, and I was like, I feel like I'm confused on...
Did you watch it back to back, like all the episodes?
I watched up to episode 6 or 7, I think, back to back, and then I just fell off. It just was like...
You stopped?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. So you didn't even get into what I would consider to be the craziness. Okay. I can't speak to that. I mean, honestly, I thought it was really consistent as far as the humor.
I'll give it another shot.
So I do agree that actually episode 12 and 13 is a bit convoluted.
Okay.
Trying to just decide what's going to happen, who's going to do what, and why they're going to do it, and those are a bit convoluted. But I would say push forward.
Okay.
I mean, I would pick it back up, and it's such an easy watch. I mean, literally, I watched the entire season in one day.
You should do stuff.
Yeah, I did. I watched The Good Place. So, and Andrew, you've seen the show, right?
No, I've never seen it.
Oh, Andrew, I promise
like it,
you would love it. You would absolutely love it.
Yeah, I don't think that I wouldn't. There's so much other stuff right now, so I'm just...
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a total lull. Like, I feel like I'm caught up on everything I want to see. The only show I haven't seen I should see is The Wire. That's like the one show I know that...
That's a big investment, though. Isn't that 8 seasons or something?
I want to watch The Wire as well.
I know. Well, so to me, I'm just trying to make it until October 27th.
Let's all start it together. Let's do it.
We'll just do a weekly watch. To me, I'm only trying to make it to October 27th because then we're going to get Stranger Things. And then first part of the year, we're going to get Westworld. So, I have these, things
When's
I'm
Walking
looking
Dead
forward
start?
to. I don't watch Walking Dead.
He doesn't watch it.
Oh.
It starts the same time that Stranger Things starts.
Gotcha.
So I have things like that, but I felt like I was in a lull for a couple weeks. So actually, this came at a good place. Andrew, I promise you would love the show if you get a chance to watch it. So anyway, cool. And again, I messed up. September 18th is now the day to remember, not the 14th.
You know what? It makes sense, though, anyway, for us to start video on our Tuesday episode as opposed to a Thursday episode
Sure.
anyway. So...
I'm not disagreeing. I think it's, I have a lot of other thoughts, but I'll save them. Andrew, why don't you go? Just take it over.
Yeah, sure, I'll go. So like I said, Doc and I are together. We were together last week for the Circles conference. Doc is going to talk more about that in the Around the Table, or in the master categories. So I will just kind of leave it at that. It was great. I enjoyed myself immensely. So I'll talk about a couple of things that I got, a couple of fun things. So one, American Horror Story Cult just kicked off. It's the 7th season, I believe, of American Horror Story. 6th season, season 6, season 7. I can't remember, but I haven't seen it yet. I actually didn't know that it had come back. I think it started last week when we were at Circles conference. So I have one on my DVR ready to watch. I love the American Horror Story series. It's a blast for me. Each one is kind of uniquely creative and I don't know.
It's themed, right? Like each
they're
season
always
has a theme.
themed. So this one's called Cult, and I don't know what it's about yet, but it's called Cult.
And
You're still caught up?
Yeah.
It has.
I watched last season. You don't remember me talking about last season? How it was like a reality show?
I mean, I guess probably. I just know we started that together, and that feels like forever ago.
It does seem like a long time
watching
ago.
that first season. We were still in Ohio. It's been a minute.
Is this the series that has the same like core actors that just play different characters each season?
Yes, and then each season brings a couple of different
like guest actors.
Like cameos that will last for like a part of the arc or whatever. So, like last year was Kathy Bates.
I mean, so I literally haven't seen since I watched all of season 1 because we watched it together. And then I watched maybe 2 or 3 episodes of season 2. I remember it. Yes, it's like mild horror, I guess. But I remember it also being kind of fun. It was pretty fun, but also a really great balance of also being creepy. Is it still that way? Does it lean more into the kind of creepiness, or
each one has a different vibe to it? So the carnival one. Was insanely creepy. Remember, it had the clown that didn't have a jaw.
Okay, yes. I saw the picture of him.
Yeah, so that one was very creepy. It was not fun at all. The last season was kind of fun. The last season was kind of fun because it kind of bounced around. It was like a reality show, but then it was like a reality show about a reality show. It's kind of hard to describe. It was very meta. But this season, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be fun. The season with Lady Gaga in it wasn't very fun. It was just kind of. Is
that the hotel one? So. Wasn't there a hotel?
Yeah. Yep, that was hotel. So I don't know. More on this later as I start to watch it and as it unfolds. But given the creepiness of what my master category is going to be later, I thought it was very fitting. And in the first episode, there are some clowns in American Horror Story Cult. Like even in the still frame on the webpage, you can see clowns. So very fitting. But the other thing is I went to the game store and as I was there looking for games, and they had none of the games I wanted, I found some. I bought my first pop vinyls in a very, very long time.
Wow.
I've stopped buying pops, and I talked about this on the show. But I found some that were
garbage.
Just they just had to look good, or they just had to be on my shelf. So I got Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah.
You see that, Patrick?
Yeah, the glasses look sweet.
The glasses are great. He came out great. It's almost flawless, actually. And then this one's fun. I got Barb, who has the translucent
that's cool.
glasses too. So I got Barb from Stranger Things. And then I couldn't resist, and I picked up Dipper and Mabel Pines from Gravity Falls.
Gotcha.
So they came out great. These are cool. I certainly am not saying that I'm back into the pop world.
Pop is the gateway drug.
It is a gateway drug. I'm far beyond the gateway, but they were kind of fun to jump back into these particular ones. So I was glad. I found out that they have a Darkwing Duck that's out right now too.
Quite excited about that.
He's very hard to find though.
Let's get dangerous, everyone.
So I'm hoping to maybe get that. I have another toy. I'm just going to kind of show you. Briefly, I'm not going to talk about it yet. I'm going to save talking about it for an unboxing video for YouTube. But I'm going to show you guys. I don't know if you could see.
Oh, heck yeah.
That's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say much other than it is a Zelda figure that has lots of fun things with
every
it.
Every bit of that. The box, the figure, every bit of that I can see looks beautiful.
Oh, that's killer.
I know. I'm really excited. So
I missed quite a bit of that packaging design when we were in the store. That's rad.
So if you want to know more about what that is that we just mysteriously alluded to,
good luck.
Tune into YouTube here in the next few days, and we'll post an unboxing video of that. So that's me, Doc. I'll throw it over to you, and then Luke can round it out.
Cool. Well, like Andrew said earlier, we were. Spent the last week together at up in Grapevine, Texas, at the Circles Conference. It was a blast. Got to meet a lot of new people, and I was gonna say there were so many great speakers. I felt like that brought just a plethora of things to talk about. Everything from doing outside work to mental health. I mean, the gamut was vast.
Like weed eating, mowing grass, just general like outside.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there was a workshop on lawn trimming.
Yeah,
and then right after that, we segued into making our own tea bags.
Ooh,
and making our own
and
tea.
Segway maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't spend a weekend with Andrew without getting a lesson in that.
He actually said that as we pulled back into his house. He's like, I'm going to need to probably mow the lawn tomorrow.
Like, I think Doc may have missed it, but let's keep going.
Let's keep going.
He'll pick it up later. Don't worry about it.
Oh, man. I totally missed that.
He'll pick up what you're putting down later. It's okay.
Yeah.
Literally.
You were killing it, Patrick.
But it was a blast getting to meet some people that I'd known through social media over the last couple of years. Finally meeting them in person, hanging out with the Hood sisters, and spending some time with them. Got to meet a couple of really basic. I mean, they're not even in the creative field, but they're in sort of like consulting and the consulting space, and so I'm excited to see sort of what comes out of that. And but also, like Andrew had said, we had sort of hit up a couple game shops and comic book stores, and it was fun to get back in there. See how
Doc hasn't been in a game store, he told me, since he was in high school.
Yeah,
like comics, games, anything.
Well, specifically a game, like a legit game store. I've been into like movie stops and stuff like that every now and again.
Sure.
When we're trying to get rid of some old DVDs and seeing what new DVDs we've got, type of thing, or even that'll date me because now everything's Blu-ray. So, but yeah, it was a blast getting to flip through some of the comic bins and check things out, and just seeing how much the space has changed in the last couple of years that had my head up my own tail.
Did you guys go to that big comic store in Austin that we went to? That place is rad. And the toy shop too?
Yeah, we hit up all three of the stores. That's a
good shopping center right there. That little strip is cool.
We did that, and then in San Antonio we went to Dragon's Lair.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I took him on the rounds.
Yeah. As you do.
Hanging out with Andrew this is one thing Andrew does really well. Like you kind of feel like you're back in high school hanging out with a buddy. Like it's
totally, absolutely,
for whatever thing. He's definitely the least responsible of everyone in this channel, and and I think that comes across in the way you're able to hang out and have fun. Okay, so going to the shops. Like, what did you walk away with anything? What'd you get?
I did. I hit up a couple. Well, I'll show you guys. I got some comic books. Well, you'll be familiar with this one. This is
I know that guy.
Hellboy.
Yeah, man.
Of course, anytime, as I say, love his stuff, and just love to looking forward to jumping in, digging into it, and figuring out how do I better dissect light and darks and using shapes to build things. A couple of the other ones I picked up were
awesome.
Empty Zone from Jason Sean Alexander. Phenomenal.
That two-headed dude's freaking me out right now.
Yeah. And so he does the cover art and the interiors, and has got a gorgeous, gritty style.
You know the premise of it?
I don't.
Is it okay? Well, never mind.
It looks sci-fi. It looks like post-apocalyptic sci-fi.
That is kind of how it looks.
Yeah. And then
maybe horror sci-fi.
Cool.
Yes. He you may have seen some of his work on Abe Sapien from the Hellboy title.
Oh, okay.
Or universe.
Yeah.
He'd done some black and white runs in that book. And then
illustrations are killer though.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then this one you guys may recognize, Animosity.
I don't know what that is, but I am instantly intrigued.
Slack members.
Is that like a buffalo?
Yes.
That's cool.
Wait. What were you about to say about Slack?
Tiny Bird Press in our Slack family. He is the coloring artist for.
Really? That's awesome.
What's up?
I'm excited to get my hands on it in person and sort of. We've talked about it some in the Slack channel and just sort of gone back and forth and how do you do type of questions. So it's good to see it in person and jump in.
It's a beautiful book too.
Yeah.
The illustrations are great and the color is great. It's it looks kind of like Scythe, like some of the artwork in it looks like Scythe, but a little bit more stylized.
Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up about my gear. How about you, Luke?
Yeah, man. Okay, so this week, man. So I think we've already mentioned it last week, but I'm going to mention it again. figuring out this video thing has been insane. I kind of hit a mental break, and I've been super swamped with work over this past week. So Patrick really picked it up and helped figure out what we need to get, and we actually got it ordered. So that was a big stress relief, which was cool. Other than that, I've been editing all week. We did a shoot Wednesday for a video that needs turned around by, it needed turned around by today. And so I spent a couple days over the weekend finalizing and sending out, rough cuts and getting feedback and re-edits and stuff like that. But it's done. So that was good. Other than that, man, Destiny 2 came out Tuesday, and I was a big Destiny 1 player, so I decided to pick it up. It's more of the same. The story is better. The visuals are way more impressive. The level design is really fun. It doesn't feel like the first Destiny was you would log in, you would do the strikes, which is basically like a more heroic type mission, and you would just keep doing those over and over and grind a character up to max level. This, it feels like you have a lot more options to do throughout the game to level up. It's a first person shooter. It's pretty basic. There's a PvP mode. All takes place. It's like a first person MMO because it all takes place online. So you see other characters running around real time in the world too. But it's good. It's fun. It's really addictive because it's so easy to just kind of do whatever you want. There's no you can just go and explore, which is really fun. Other than that, today I found this video and I put it up in our Slack. It's from 2006, so I'm pretty late on it.
2016.
That's what I meant. Sorry. 2016. It's the AICP sponsor reel. It's by Method Studios. And basically
Unreal.
Yeah, they took two dancers, a male and a female dancer, and they had them in probably just green or blue bodysuits. And they're just dancing in front of the camera in these different backgrounds that change. But what they did is they took a 3D modeling program and basically made them out of all these different textures. And so they're just dancing around, and it is they picked a Major Lazer song, which anything by Major Lazer just gets you moving. It's so good. But it just worked really well. And to me, it was I got so much joy from watching it. It was so I don't know if inspiring is the right word. It was motivating for me. It made me see that and just go, I need to actually create stuff for myself. Cause I've kind of been in this the podcast is for myself. We do this all together and it's a blast, but I haven't really created anything for myself in a while. And I just need to. And it got me motivated to do something fun for myself. So yeah, if you want to check it out, you can just Google 2016 AICP sponsor reel, or you can go to our Slack channel, and I put it in the M of One family. And man, it's fun. I watch it. I think I probably watch it 15 times a day.
Well, it'll be in the show notes as well. But
sure.
the renderings are
it had to take
crazy.
So long. It's so good. And the company Method, they did the titles for so many movies. They've done FX work for a couple different Marvel things. They've done titling, they've done Nike commercials. They do so much stuff, and it's so good and so clean. The animations are so on point. It's just a really fun idea. So if you need some inspiration or motivation or just some joy, just check it out. But that's it, man. My week is pretty standard.
Okay, well, then I'm going to say I think it's time for us to move on into our master categories. So that's it for Around the Table. Up next, we're going to talk some master categories. Every week we talk about the tokens we drew the week before. This week we're changing it up just a little bit because Doc's here, and honestly, Luke couldn't be happier to bequeath his art and design token to Doc. And so actually, why don't we do this? Why don't we start off with Doc, because Doc is going to be sitting in as the master of art and design for this episode. And so Doc, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, what possibly could you be talking about, Doc?
Art and design and some conferencing. So, like we said earlier, the Circles Conference just happened this past week in Grapevine, Texas. Flew out last week to hit up some of the early workshops that were happening and going on, and was frankly extremely impressed. I know my go-to conferences in the last 3 or 4 years have been Weapons of Mass Creation and Creative South, and felt like it was one of those things. Like I had gone to them so many times that I needed almost to step out of my comfort zone in another way and not just go to the same conferences where I'm going to see familiar faces and family, but go halfway across the country to meet new family that just hasn't become family yet. And so that's pretty much what I found and what was able to interact with it. I mean, I'll try to get some pictures, and I'll give you the link, Patrick. You can post it up in the
totally, yep,
the show notes. But the layout and everything from my first interaction with the conference that Ish put on was just fantastic. I thought they worked in everything thematically from the website into the collateral, which obviously is a no-brainer. You do that, but the design and layout was phenomenal. In several of the sessions, I saw people thumbing through the program, just sort of oohing and on over the layout and the paper. But the speakers they had this year were really good. And if I was to pull a theme out, I would say like there seemed to be quite a bit of talk on empathy and just, putting yourself in other people's shoes and sort of defining the difference between pity and sympathy and actual empathy, which it was one of those things like, yeah, I know that there's a difference, but sort of hearing it and seeing it in scenarios that we can interact with and do and partake in daily was something that I was like, okay, those are actionable things that I can take away and implement.
It seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't been to Circles, but I've been to Squares. Squares is another event that you said Ishmael Burciaga. That's who puts on Squares, Circles. I think they're doing lines.
I was going to botch his last name, so.
No, it's fine. I don't know that I have confirmation that's how you pronounce it, but it feels good. But anyway, so I've been to Squares. Squares is a smaller event than Circles. So I know with Circles, it's in the same venue every year in Grapevine. I know Circles sells out the main auditorium in the overflow room. Squares only takes place in that auditorium.
Gotcha.
So it's a bit smaller, but I just had this sense that even with all the people there, because it is a few hundred people, you just get this sense that you're like, everybody's just one of Ishmael's friends. And it feels very casual in that way. Like I remember the first night we got there, it was supposed to be like you buy your own drinks and you buy your own food and stuff like that. So we were going to go hang out at a place, but you're supposed to be on your own. And we get there and Ish was just like, whatever, I got everybody. And you just get this sense that like, it's that he feels like he's just hanging out with a bunch of his friends and you feel like one of his friends from day one. And then additionally, there didn't seem to be a barrier to meeting people. It was everybody just feels like immediately like your close friend just by way of being there, and there's just nothing in between. Like I don't know, it feels everybody feels super accessible at these events. Absolutely, and it feels like very low ego. So Circles is the same way.
Yes, I would say. Yes, I was going to say there was plenty of sessions where we could get out. They had ping pong tables set up outside of the auditorium where everybody sort of lined up to print their own T-shirts for the Circles, and you could play ping pong, drink. They had all kind of Red Bull and sodas and waters for everybody to sort of partake in, and it was plenty of built-in opportunities for that. The relational aspect that you were talking about, and it was perfect. I mean, it's always one of those things like you get into those conversations about 15 minutes before the next session starts, and you're like, dang it, we should have hit this note like an hour ago when we could have really dug in, but let's come back to that at the next break, and inevitably you'd see that person and catch back up, and there'd be another one or two persons in tow that you'd sort of just, invite into the circle and, pick up and continue talking about life, art, and how you marry the two of them.
So I'm curious with you going to conferences, just in general. So you mentioned a couple. I think you mentioned Creative South. You mentioned Weapons Mass Creation that goes on in Cleveland every year. Yeah, I almost said Cincinnati, Cleveland. And then Circles. When you go to a conference, what do you expect to get out of them? I mean, do you go because you think you're actually going to learn something? Or is it just, I get to skip work and hang out with my friends for a few days? Like, what's the expectation you're bringing to this?
I absolutely expect to learn something and to be challenged. I don't expect to be challenged by everybody, but inevitably there is always a takeaway that you can pull out of anybody that's talking with you, whether it's a relatable standpoint of like, okay, we're in the boat together, and there's the encouragement and camaraderie sort of element that you tap into, or whether it's somebody down the road in their career like the Hood sisters who are like, hey, this is X, Y, and Z, and overcoming, and here's some things that we've done. And their talk this year was about the fact that as designers, our design culture tends to be addicted to being right, and sort of how do you break that and be more able to solve problems for your clients, type of a thing.
Totally.
And I mean, that absolutely blew me away. I was trying my best to scribble down as many notes as possible, and I need to take a note from other people that were just taking shots of the screens as they were flipping through their presentation. I was like, that would be a much quicker, smarter way of taking notes.
I wonder if I thought about this because they killed it. I think they were my. I think they tied for first on my favorite. They did a great job, and I've thought about asking them to come on the show, both of them, because last time we only had Amy, and Jen felt like she was slighted when we saw her. She was like, yeah, Amy told me that she did the podcast after she was done. She's like, oh, I was on a podcast. And she's like, what? But they killed it, and I thought about maybe asking them to come back on and do like a less formal discussion-based version of that talk, because it was really good. And then Brad and Tara also killed it. Let me say one thing about the Hood sisters. So Amy gets up and she starts her talk. So if you don't know this, they're twins. Amy gets up and she says, at the beginning of most people's talks, they get up and qualify themselves a little bit. They talk about the work they've done.
Sure.
So
just to give people a frame of reference, if you've never been to a conference like this. So she gets up there and she goes, okay, so how many of you out there use Palm Canyon Drive font? 2 people put their hands up. Me and somebody else in the balcony. She went, okay, well, that's humbling. It was hilarious. We met up with them in Austin afterwards and had lunch with them on our way back. And she's like, I felt like such a doofus. It was hilarious. I said, well, hey, I actively use Palm Canyon Drive, so you at least you could feel good about that.
I mean, Dustin over at Retro Supply Co. says it was an amazing seller, and so it just. Nobody
just not by the people in there. Yeah,
I saw that Ferrari Dustin's driving. I think it's doing well.
Like Patrick said, the Hood sisters absolutely killed it, and Brad and Tara from
Andrew also said it. Just to clear it up. Patrick didn't say it. Andrew said it.
So let me tell a story, because I didn't go. I don't know what happened, but apparently Doc has referred to Andrew by the name Patrick, my given name.
I think that makes 13 times.
It's enough that it's starting to affect our relationship.
It's enough that you're counting. Like, that's how many. It's enough that you have a running count how many times it is. To be fair, I would say that we're both funny.
Well, that doesn't make me feel good.
You're the only one I can keep straight.
That's right, man.
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah, I knew where you were going, and I was like, is he going to
It is
take it there?
2017. How dare anyone think what I just thought?
Yeah, you
Go
are
ahead.
just a hot mess of a person.
Yeah, during another session, like I was saying, the Hood Sisters absolutely killed it. Another session that I really, really dug was Brad and Tara from the Banner years. They opened up Pandora's box or a can of worms and just basically broke down sort of through some of the research that they had been talking about how creatives and sort of mental health and mental disease.
Okay.
Is that the correct word?
I mean, yeah.
And they sort of, it was like this yin and yang where they're not 100% sure if being creative leads to mental health issues or if having mental health issues is sort of, hand in hand makes for creatives type of a thing. But basically they, opened it up and were like, yeah, we're more susceptible to health issues because we do care about what we put out into the world. It's personal. It's a part of who we are, and we put ourselves into our work. Some of us rely heavily on our identity through the work that we put out there. Mm-hmm. Some of us more or less connected. Just some of the psychology behind it and the ins and outs of putting so much of ourself into the work and the long-term toll if we don't, back up, take a chance to breathe and refresh and reset. Like Brad shared openly, like he has panic attacks and stress, anxiety, and for me it helped because this last year I had a pretty bad panic attack, and then just a matter of a couple weeks ago I blacked out at work just because of so much that I had on my plate and pushing myself apparently beyond my physical limits to where my body just said, all right, I'm gonna reset because you refuse to do it. And so I had not been able to articulate some of the pressure points and some of the way that they were able to articulate their the research and what they had been feeling and going through. So I had reached out and was like, I would love to get my hands on these because those slides were the articulation that I had been trying to share with my wife and family of like, I'm not crazy. I'm not, losing it, but I don't know how to articulate some of the things. So it was really good. And they said to keep our eyes open for more resources that they're going to be sharing with, I think the website is The Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The title of their talk was Swimming to the Shore. So I think it's theshore.com.
It's something. Yeah, it's The Shore something. Yeah.
I'll find it. It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
my
have it in the
job.
show notes.
I got it.
It'll be in the show notes, but we're also reaching out to we're already in talks to have them on the show because that was seriously a game-changing conversation. And I doubt Doc and myself were the only two people who resonated with it. And so I think there's probably a ton of our listeners who could really benefit from hearing like the simple sentiment that you're not alone.
Yeah, when you think about it, you hear that a lot through therapy talk, and it's like, yeah. But they touched on so many different elements that really sort of drove it home, and they talked about scenarios. I'm like, okay, yes, that is true. I connected on several points. So
you had art and design, and we're talking about this conference. So what is it that, like, what is one of the things that you take from this back home in your work to help you be better or do better? Like, what's the main thing is it the mental health aspect of it, or is it practically something else?
I mean, I'm going to be dissecting and going back over the pages for sure, and trying to unpack that for a couple weeks, honestly. Like the initial like takeaway is a refresh restart, button that needed to be pushed with me, and I'm excited to get back to work, back to my day job, and knock it out of the park for them, as well as coming home and knocking it out of the park and getting back into the behind the drawing table and things of that nature. So it definitely, I think surface level is a healthy reset and restart button. But digging down deeper, it's going to be important for everybody to not just let it sit. You got to go back and review the notes that you've been writing down for the last couple of days and the thoughts that have been percolating in the back of your brain. So that's going to be the long game.
Sure.
Patrick, do you want to take it?
Absolutely. Smooth. No, I love everything that's going on. The Grapevine's beautiful, circles, squares, the stuff that Ishmael's doing, and the people that come out there. I know that I've only been able to go one time to one of the events, and it was it was a super great experience, and I hope we get to go back. I mean, the funny thing is that there's so many events, and there's so many events we get to be a part of that it becomes limiting to what we can do. I know that over the course of the next, 2 months, we're going to be at 3 different events. And so we start getting to this really tough place of having to pick and choose. And so I'm just going to have this rotation where every year we're going to have to swap them out. But,
well, and that'll be good too. So you don't see the same people.
That's right.
That's true.
So that's what we'll have to do. We'll just have to, how a farmer swaps out his soil? Same thing. We're just going to have to, spread our seed somewhere else every year. So anyway.
Not the soil, but the crops.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Exactly what you're thinking. So this week, I got a chance to talk about toys and games, and it's a interesting week in that Toys R Us. So this is a company you're probably familiar with. It's probably
I've
a
heard of
company
them.
that you've been inside, and then as a kid, you
Usually
probably
once a week.
pined exactly to go to. But they have reached out to a firm about potentially restructuring and maybe even filing bankruptcy. It's a very big deal. They have $5 billion in debt right now, and
That's a lot.
The last quarter, I think they posted something like $130 million in losses. And that's actually better. A year ago, that quarter, they posted $230 million in losses. So they're actually getting better. But the reality is futures may be bleak. And it's not just them. This is for a lot of the large kind of the big box retailers. We've kind of seen this story play out over and over and over again with stores that are frankly too large, especially the way people shop nowadays, and that's that people do their shopping online. And now that being said, I had this moment where I was trying to really think, where are we spending our money? Because Toys R Us actually has an incredible selection. By the way, I think the average person in here could find something that they would like. It's pretty impressive. There's a lot. Even you can find Kid Robot Dunnies, not to mention.
Yeah, they have decent toys. Not just the regular action figures. They have more niche things.
Yeah. So they're struggling. And then I started thinking about some of the toy stores and comic book shops I know that have closed down recently. But then, I'm still kind of thinking on the news of Huck deciding to kind of walk away from his business, and the statement he made that the market just isn't there anymore. And I'm just kind of internally at this point of where's people's money going? What are people spending money on?
Digital.
I was going to say, it seems like things have shifted. The game store that we walked into today was twice the size of the game stores that I walked into growing up.
Yeah.
Hard hitting.
I'm trying to process that because I don't know that one begets the other. But you are seeing a rise in the GameStops and the Think Geeks of the world, and they're starting to carry toys and they're starting to carry collectibles.
Yep.
As well as, yeah.
It is true. So basically, I think there's a couple pieces to this. You have smaller stores that are now carrying the things you would normally expect from a more specialized, larger retailer. I mean, the fact is, I can go to somewhere like Marshall's right now, and I can buy some of the like toys there. I can go to CVS, or I can go to these like basically smaller physical stores and get these things that, again, I used to only be able to find at the larger stores. Certainly, online plays a part in it. I mean, there's a feeling of being uneducated. And of wasting money by purchasing something in a physical location. It feels like you haven't done your research unless you've gone online. So the physical store acts as more of a window. Yes, you do your a little bit of discovery there, but the reality is once you actually make a decision, you then go shop it online. I'm the kind of person, though, that I can't do
I think that's an age thing, though, honestly, because I'm not really that much older than you, but to me, I would think that, like you said, you go and you see more and you discover more things at the store. Like that was always what it was, going to the game store or going to like Toys R Us and seeing the new toys. Like now everything is available early online so you can see what's coming out. But I think it's just based on your savvy and your age or,
I think it's shifting because I still use physical stores when it comes to like the tactile. Like I can hold the thing and interact with the thing, but there's this other piece of me that's like, I don't know if this is going to break in 3 months. I got to go pull up reviews. I got to see what other people are saying. What's the lifetime of this thing? And then I still have this feeling, and I would say it's actually mostly unfounded if I'm to be realistic, but I have this feeling that I'm not getting the best price if I buy it at a physical location, that I can find a better price if I look online. And again, I actually don't think that's realistic. I think that even if I'm saving money, it's such a small margin that it's just insignificant, to be honest.
Well, you definitely have to take that into consideration how much time do you spend on the internet flipping through, checking price points? Like if you burn 2 or 3 hours and you don't even make a purchase, it's like, what's your hourly rate?
Well, yeah, exactly. True. If I spend an hour flipping through, then I burn through $130 if I would have just pulled the trigger.
But at the same time, online purchasing is way more convenient too, because you don't have to leave. You don't have to leave your house. You're just there and it shows up.
Well, I'm not quite that lazy, but
no, I know, but like that's the thing though. That's the thing that happens though. That's the rise, the rise of online shopping. You don't have it's convenience.
So anyway, it's so right now Toys R Us they're sitting in this place of what do we do? I mean, do we restructure? Do we close larger stores? Do we have to shift our footprint? One of the things they've done. So their current, I don't know if the term is CEO, but they're.
Can we stop selling Skylanders? That would probably just fix half of it.
I just figured it was all the giraffe food that they were having to fork out before.
Yeah, what's the giraffe's name, by the way? What's his name?
Jeffrey. Yeah.
That is such a regal, professional name, Mr. Jeffrey,
Captain Jeffrey.
So it's one of the previous CEOs
I'm the captain now.
Of Domino's who's currently in charge of Toys R Us, and so his kind of my understanding is what he's been trying to do is make the stores more fun, and then they've recently redone their website, putting an emphasis on the online experience. But the reality is
they're just a toy tracker. If you order a toy online from when it's like. They grab it off the shelf and put it in the box, and then they ship it to you, and it's on its way.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And all that stuff is good, but just at this point, you're just so far behind the curve. So anyway, I'm curious. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts about just what you see. I mean, if I decide that I want something, right? If I want the latest, whatever the thing is, where do I go? Like a year from now, 2 years from now, is the answer going to be Walmart and Target? Is the answer going to be buy it online? Is there going to be like some new kind of hybrid that's like a step larger than the mom and pop, but it's going to be smaller than the big box? Like Luke, I feel like Luke has opinions on this.
I want to say it first because I feel like mine will get said anyway. So I want to say it first. I think it really depends on who you're buying for and what you're buying and where you live. So like, for instance, where I live, we don't have Amazon, like, fast delivery or now or whatever it's called. I don't even know what it's called because I don't have it. Like, all of our stuff takes 2 days to get here, maybe a day and a half, depending on what you're getting and where it's from. So if I'm ordering something for my kids, they want it right now. Like if they've saved their money, they want to go to the store and get it. They don't want to order online. Even if they save $5, they don't care. They want it right now. So we're going to Target, or we're going to Walmart, or we're going to Toys R Us, and we're getting stuff. Me, it depends, like Best Buy. So we've been looking at all this camera stuff. Best Buy, B&H, Amazon are all the same prices right now, and everybody price matches. So our big boy toys, our grown-up toys, I can get that whenever. And if I can get it instantly versus having to wait for it 2 days, even as free shipping, I'm going to get it right now. So totally. I think it depends on what you're buying and where you live. That'll dictate what your trend is as far as online or retail.
How important, this is up for anybody, whoever wants to answer first, how important to you is the kind of fun, almost like fringe store experience? Like I remember when I bought, this might have been like the second PlayStation, and I remember I camped in front of a Walmart for 32 hours to be one of the first 8 people so I could get one, because that's all they were allotted. But that's like a story you want to tell all of your friends, and it was like time well spent, and it felt exciting, and like, I was blazing a new frontier sitting in front of a Walmart in a tent. Like, how important are those experiences to your shopping? Like, is that something that you never want to do? Or if you had a local store that wasn't doing online releases, but was doing these like store events, like I'm kind of thinking about how Alamo treats the movie theater. Yeah. Like it's a new experience. Like whether it's sing-alongs or like you're dressing up or whatever it is, they've managed to they've managed to pair a movie with like an alternative experience. Sure. It's really exciting. So is that what a store needs? Is more events and more like fanfare?
I think people want I think my local GameStop is a good example of this. They do like midnight release events, so like Destiny, they had like 3 hours Destiny tournaments, and the people would come and just play Destiny. All these people were excited for the same game, and it was fun, and it was an exciting thing. On top of that, the thing that you get with a physical store is if you keep going to that place, people start to know you, and being known, like we all want to be known and we all want to be accepted. And this store that I go to is hitting every interest I have, and the people there know what they're talking about, and they know me. Like that's something that online does not have yet. I don't know that we'll never get it. I imagine we will eventually get it, but right now, that's a thing that I think shoppers or the average person wants is a sense of community.
Andrew, you look like you were deep in thought.
So I think Luke just said what I was thinking. It's the idea that so companies have shifted already to doing this exclusive thing. If you want the special DLC pack of whatever Destiny's armor, whatever, you've got to buy it from GameStop. If you want to get the special bobblehead or the special collectible figure with the deluxe set, you've got to get it from Hot Topic. If you want to get the, whatever. It's just more and more. And like GameStop right now, if you order the deluxe set of Battlefront 2, you get it 3 days early. So like there's this exclusivity stuff that is helping drive people to these stores. But then on top of that, having event-based things or having something to draw people to, whether it's community-based in the sense of people being together and kind of circled around this same thing, or just the general fanfare of let's all get excited about this particular thing, or it's just people wanting the exclusive stuff, like that's up your alley, Patrick. I can only get this, only so many people are going to get this. And if they can do this, then it's going to draw people to it. So I think the general store front if it's not already there, it's definitely getting to be very antiquated.
Totally.
And even Walmart has taken the bait on some of this stuff. They will do some so Luke is holding up his exclusive Destiny figure from GameStop. So from Big Shot Toys. And so
It's a really good sculpt.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
so, I think like I was saying, like with Walmart, that's a big box retailer, right? It's the biggest box retailer. They will do some parties and some hoopla and some fanfare stuff when there's big releases. And so they're taking the cue from some of the smaller shops. And I think that's the only way to stay here,
Well, so let me go ahead and wrap this up. So Toys R Us was founded by a guy named Charles Lazarus. And Charles Lazarus, coming back from World War II, he heard so many soldiers returning talking about starting a family. And he anticipated that if these people start a family, they'll need to buy stuff for their new baby. And so the initial store was sold like baby furniture and clothing and things like that. And he was right. I mean, he anticipated, and it was a success. And then as those customers, as their kids began aging, he knew, hey, what's the next thing they're going to want? They're going to want toys. And he anticipated, and he was on the forefront, and he was a success. Some point along the way, Toys R Us specifically stopped anticipating what the next move would be. And I'm sitting here a bit kind of wondering who is anticipating it. I think Amazon definitely held the crown for a while. But as you mentioned with the camera stuff earlier in this conversation, we're getting to a point where it seems like everybody has a pretty good online store and everybody has the same products and the same prices. And so I'm very interested in what the next differentiation is going to be. I'm excited for when we see it. I feel like it's something that I'll know when I see it. But I do feel like something has to shift. And I hope that it shifts in favor of the individual creators. That's the people we love to support on this show. That's the people that I hope that you're supporting every day. If you see a cool piece of artwork on Instagram or a cool toy or a cool something, it's great to tell someone it's good. It is even better to prove it by paying some money. And so I hope that's what you're doing personally. And I hope whatever the next thing is, I hope it is a big boom to the individual creator. So we'll see. Andrew, I think that's you that's left, correct?
I think so. So we'll round this thing out. I'm going to give a pretty in-depth review of the film It with, I'll try to stay spoiler-free. There's not a ton. I don't think there's going to be any reason for spoilers. The film itself follows very closely the original film, so if you haven't seen that, then maybe it would be spoilers. But for the most part, I think the film was spoiled 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, whenever it was out.
27 years ago.
Yeah, 27. So, is that when it came out?
It's 27 years ago.
Oh my gosh. I just...
You just put that together?
Yes. Okay, that's great. Actually, that is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, if you haven't seen the original or seen this one, you don't know what we're talking about, but that's great. So, so we...
Continuity,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if I've ever seen a film that has had that foresight that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So the film itself is about a band of kids who are... So actually the film is about a town called Derry. And I don't know if it's in Maine or...
Yes.
Okay, so Derry, Maine. And there are children and people going missing. It's this kind of local mystery, and it happens every 27 years. You find out over the course of the film. There's a pattern to it. For 1 year, this thing happens. This anomaly happens. Children go missing, and you never find them. Well, I mean, if you're familiar at all with it, this is based on Stephen King's movie Stephen King's book It, and It, quote unquote, it takes the general form of Pennywise, the sadistic clown. And so if you've seen the original, I'll do kind of a quick comparison. This is not the Tim Curry clown. At no point does this clown seem jovial, happy, or clowny. He always seems manic. He always seems sadistic. He always seems terrifying. Even when he's smiling, he seems terrifying. And I say he looks manic because his eyes are never straight. They're always kind of roaming, like these. They're pivoting like this on an off axis, which you don't realize how disturbing that is until you have super close up of that. You know what I mean? When you're like super close up on that, it gets really, really unnerving.
Yeah, I kept wanting to like poke it so that it would be straight.
Just you wanted to slap the screen and fix the eye. Like it just, hey, stop moving around. So what you find out, I'm not going to go into too much of it, but what you find out is that it's this clown he manifests himself in the form of the children's greatest fears. And that's kind of the way that he does it. And so he appears differently to different characters throughout the film, ultimately always kind of coming back to the general form of Pennywise the clown. But this film touches on so much deeper level. So the original movie, like we talked about last time, is actually a 2-part miniseries. And it focuses primarily on the adults and these kids who experience this horrifying childhood, and then they are now adults trying to remember it. So most of the movie, the original 1990s version, is a flashback, and you see small pieces of the kids' story throughout the movie. This is the opposite. This starts from the perspective of the kids, and you see that whole story unfold from the kids' perspective. And there's a reason why they do this. I won't go into why. Go see the film. It makes it better. They tweak a couple of the details a little bit as far as what characters are doing what things, but for the most part, the film kind of follows the original deal. The biggest change, I would say, is Luke, before we started talking, you had said that you had heard it wasn't really that scary. I would agree that it's not necessarily that scary. It is far more sadistic. Sure. It is far more unnerving, and it is far more relentless. The last 60, 70, 80% of the film, which it's weird to say the last 80%, but the majority of the back end of the film, it doesn't stop. It's one kid being terrified, and as soon as that scene ends, it's immediately picked up by another kid becoming terrified, and then another kid becoming terrified. It is relentless till the end.
That sounds exhausting.
It is kind of exhausting.
So let me I want to clarify. Is it, you said more sadistic, more terrifying. Is it more than the original or more than the average horror movie now?
That's a good question. I might have to ponder it a little bit more to give a more extensive answer, but at first glance, it's definitely more than the original.
Sure.
Like, way more than the original. In fact, there's some stuff that's hinted at in the original about maybe some inappropriate things happening from an adult to a child.
Sure.
They dig into that pretty heavy. There's a character who is experiencing sexual abuse from a parent and then they nod to the idea that maybe even other adult characters in the movie, and it's sick. Like, it's very sick. They don't condone it by any stretch of the imagination. Sure. It's not glorified. It is definitely seen as a very gross thing, but it's that kind of thing. It just gets way deeper, and it's just the film as a whole is heavier. That being said, okay, this is going to be a weird jump. I really enjoyed it. It was a very entertaining film. There were a lot of jump scares. Luke, there would have been much urine.
I don't do that.
Or you would have just passed out. Like, I think it's possible.
I would have thrown up a vanilla milkshake.
But I'll say this, though. They weren't...
I almost threw up the strawberry milkshake.
Doc almost lost his milkshake. And after one intense scene in particular, the theater was silent. Like, this happened. Everyone was kind of like shocked. And then Doc went audibly loud at an Alamo Drafthouse. Boo! And it made everybody laugh. They were all laughing at Doc's reaction to it. He's like, I think I'm going to throw up. But it's not like terribly gruesome. It's not like a Saw movie.
No.
It's not like that. It's very like in
your head.
It's very in your head. There are jump scares, but they're not cheap jump scares.
So like The Conjuring?
It's kind of like The Conjuring. Yeah, it's kind of like The Conjuring.
Yep.
And
Hard
like
pass.
some of the stuff is like a quick where the characters come at you very quickly and they're very jittery.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I'm done.
It also didn't help that from the get-go, the Alamo Drafthouse staff were just beating you over the head.
Okay, you walked in and immediately a clown jumped out from behind the pillar and scared you.
Pass.
Yep. And then while we were sitting and waiting in the pre-show, 3 people dressed as clowns, two or three people dressed as clowns were roaming the audience, jumping and scaring people.
Pass.
And then when we walked out of the theater, one jumped out and scared me. And
Pass.
I thought he was going to get punched.
I yelled maybe some profanities loudly in the Alamo hallway, but it was all part of the experience. The experience was great. I had a great time seeing it. I would probably go see it again.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I would probably go see it again. I really enjoyed it, and not like in a sick way. I didn't walk out of there feeling gross like I do sometimes after I watch like Saw or some of those like mutilation type movies. It wasn't like that at all. The story of it was very, very good, and what they did with Pennywise, the actor who played Pennywise killed it. Like, pun intended. Killed it. Like, he did an amazing job of being the crazed clown.
I was going to say, I think to point back to what you were talking about with Pennywise's eyes just not being right, like, you weren't ever 100% sure if he was looking at you, through you, or, at the monster that's getting ready to rip your head off type of a thing. Andrew and I were talking about it on the way back home afterwards. Just even from the way that they crafted his clown makeup to where the smile just sort of comes out. You've got the clowns that will have the exaggerated smiles, but this smile goes up and basically pierces through the eyeballs type of a thing. And we got talking about how, to me, it was reminiscent of a Salvador Dali photo where he had taken his mustache and sort of basically pierced his eyeballs. Like, to me, it was a direct nod to Salvador Dali and the surreal world that he would craft and create, and just sort of things are off and you're not 100% sure where the solid ground is that you could stand on in that realm. Yeah,
I would agree. This is a cut above your average horror movie, for sure. I have to imagine Stephen King is super pleased with how this came out. I've never read the original book, so I don't know. But wow, so much care and attention has gone into this. And man, there's one really big spoiler that I want to say, but I'll save it until we're off air, because I know you guys won't care. But I would say go see it if you're okay with jumpy movies.
Hard
but
pass.
I think the story is worthwhile. So anyway, that's it for the review. I'd give it a 9 out of 10 for sure. I thought it was that good. The acting was great. So Luke, you had said that you had heard some people say that it just felt like a worse version of Stranger Things.
Yeah. They said it was too many Stranger Things parallels. Like, it felt too much like the direction that this remake went was influenced by some ideas in Stranger Things, and that it was the acting, like, except for a couple people, was just kind of okay.
Oh yeah, I would disagree with both of those. Well, first of all, I mean, it follows the original movie pretty closely, so it getting themes from Stranger Things. I would argue that if it's tied to it, then Stranger Things got its feel from there. But then you also have the Goonies, so like there are obviously natural connections that are kids going on the journey. So, but the kid who's from Stranger Things, who plays Richie in this film, hilarious. There's some really funny parts to this movie, like some legitimately really funny parts to this movie. Obviously, it's dark humor, but there's some actually really funny stuff. So. Yeah. So anyway, I would give it a thumbs up.
But never
for sure.
from Pennywise.
Nothing funny from Pennywise. No, never, nothing funny. Always like, I don't want to be looking at you, but I can't stop. The makeup was incredible too. Yeah. So that's it for this master category time portion.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good way of closing that out.
Makes sense.
Super professional. Check us out on mofonepodcast.com where you can find show notes and links to all the stuff we talked about in this episode. Like Patrick said, check out our YouTube channel. Starting September 18th, we go live with video officially. And guys, oh my goodness. Why are you shaking your head no?
It's going to be crazy.
Let me say this.
Okay. I thought
You're
maybe
going
I
to
said
see
something
so much
wrong.
burping and drinking from Patrick, you won't even be able to stand it.
Yeah, Luke has to cut out so much every week. Let me say this too. Luke, you teased it earlier when you said that it's incredibly complicated to for some reason do what we're trying to do. We are gonna, once we get everything set up, and then we're gonna put out a full video that just runs through our setup and how basically the steps it takes to produce an episode and get it to you every week, or I should say 2 episodes every week. But man, it was weirdly complicated, but gosh, I can't wait. It's
gonna be fun.
For sure going to be an awesome step up.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the content that we're going to be able to start putting out for you guys. And, man, yeah, I've been kind of taking a backseat to the planning portion of the equipment because that's just not my forte. But the stuff that's coming in the mail in the next day or so, I can't even tell you guys how excited I am to start getting stuff out there for you. So, but go now and subscribe to the YouTube channel. There is stuff on there. There's original content on there as well as an archive now of episodes. Go and subscribe now so that it will help us get our URL solidified as soon as possible. So you have to hit a certain threshold of subscribers to get there. So if you haven't already done that, please go do that now. Just go to youtube.com and search M of One Podcast. You can find it there, or just search Master of One Podcast. You'll find it. But do that. It helps us out a ton. Speaking of helping us out a ton, go to iTunes and subscribe on there as well. Leave a review and rate the show. It doesn't take you any time. It doesn't take you any money. It takes very little time. It helps us out so much. So please support the show that way. You can support the show on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/M of One Podcast to support the show financially. It's because of our patrons, as well as a couple of other things that help us do stuff like shifting to video and putting out new content. And we have some more cool stuff that we haven't told you guys about yet, in terms of new content and more ways to connect. And so, given a few bucks a month, it helps us out so much in that arena. And then finally, jump into the Slack channel. I mean, this community is amazing. Doc, who's sitting right next to me, we met because of the podcast. We talk regularly on Slack channel, and so even though we barely know each other in real life, he's been staying at my house the last few nights, and we've been hanging out for the last week, and it's the power of that community. So jump in that community, mofonepodcast.com/Slack, and man, I can't sing the praises of that community enough. There are some amazing people in there.
It's sort of like a mini conference, honestly.
Kind of, yeah. It's great. So I think that's going to be it. Doc, tell everybody where they can find you on the internets.
You can find me at I Am Redicus on all the socials.
It kind of sounded like you were going to keep going there, but that's cool. You can find me at Andrew Sale with 3s instead of E's.
Great Patsby, that's with 2 A's, only on Instagram, and I probably won't check it.
You can find me at Luke Gall or M of One Luke in random places.
Yep, and we are at M of One Podcast all over the internet, so just search talk. We're there. We'll respond. But for now, we're going to get out of here. I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Doc.
And I'm Luke.
Peace out.
Bye.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Hold on to your butts.
I'm Andrew, your master of art and design.
I'm Doc, your master of red beard and tomfoolery.
Shut up. I want to say I'm Luke now because that's number 3. It messes up the whole rhythm of everything.
I'll just go last then.
No.
Why don't
It
we
needs
do
to be.
the 3?
It needs to be And I'm Luke, your master of toys and games. That is the flow that needs to happen.
No, or you could say, and I'm Luke, your master of toys and games.
Nope.
And featuring special guest, Doc.
I'm the anchor.
Sorry, Patrick. We have voted.
Do it from the beginning.
I will, but only because I want to, not because you told me to.
34%?
Okay.